Welcome to our worship and happy Easter. My name is Alex Bradley and I'm a Unitarian minister living and working in Cheshire. After darkness, light. After winter, spring. After dying, life. May the flame that we light at the beginning of our worship call to mind the light of the unconquered sun, who brings joy and a gladness to our world. And may its warmth comfort us, and may its illumination guide us in the paths of wisdom and peace. And a prayer. Divine Spirit, you dwell in the bud and blossoming flower, in the new and growing leaf, and in the song of birds. For all this beauty we give our thanks and praise. From despondency and depression, we move to hope and joy in the knowledge of the eternal movement of nature that renews itself in life reborn. So may we be part of this resurrection and share in your rebirth as leaves on your tree of life, and share in your life eternal. A reading of a reflection on the significance of Jesus by a Unitarian Universalist minister, the Reverend Richard S. Gilbert. I hope he'll be remembered. Obscured by centuries of violence, clouded by countless creeds, dissected by 1,000 scholars, preached from 1,000,000 pulpits, mouthed by 1,000,000 lips, crucified by willful distortion and innocent ignorance. I hope he'll be remembered in simple, unadorned humanity. So what do you believe? Do you believe in Easter? Was the question that a visitor to our chapel once asked me. It was the sort of question that raised more issues than it solved. A mischievous impulse in me was tempted to reply, yes, of course, it's when I eat lots of chocolate eggs. But I refrained and said instead that as the very word comes from an ancient word for spring, I saw it as a celebration of new life and hope, symbolized in the eternal renewal of nature, and that this was part of my belief in immortality or resurrection, however one might define those terms. The visitor seemed to think that my belief was not watertight enough. My view was that some things are not meant to be cut and dried like a mathematical equation, but can have different interpretations depending on the angle from which the issue is viewed. So many disputes revolve around words and the definition of words. Some people claim that they have the only possible interpretation of what a word means and should mean. However, T.S. Eliot reminds us that words strain, crack and sometimes break under the burden, under the tension, slip, slide, perish, decay with precision, will not stay in place. So I look to various sources for inspiration, and nature is one of them, along with the Bible, devotional works, poetry, novels, and other literature. In our garden we have a little cherry blossom tree which is blooming with beautiful flowers just at the moment. There is another shrub with lovely white flowers which I planted a few years ago, and a forsythia with its yellow flowers. Their blossoms do not last long, so I try to make the most of them while they are still here. Then they vanish for another year, but I know that in future years they will return once more in the spring. Sometimes a late frost will kill off the flowers that have come into bloom too early, but we know that they will come again next year. The word resurrection means rising. Just as a seed rises from the ground, so, says Paul, we rise too. In his first letter to the Christian church in Corinth, He writes about the body being transformed. It is like this, he says, with the resurrection of the dead. What is sown is perishable. What is raised is imperishable. It is sown a physical body. It is raised a spiritual body. If there is a physical body, there is also a spiritual body. We know from modern science that the seed is not dead, but alive in the fact that certain life processes are taking place within it. But it becomes something entirely different when it comes out of the ground to become a plant, a bush or a tree. There is a continuity, but it is unrecognizable. Equally, the caterpillar becomes a moth or butterfly. It is the same, yet it is completely different in form. So our bodies are sown as physical bodies, but are raised as spiritual bodies. The resurrection accounts in the Gospels clearly show that when Jesus appeared to his followers, he was the same, yet different. In one account, in Luke's Gospel, 2 of his closest followers actually walk with him and yet do not recognize him at first. In this time of fear, we look for a message of hope, and I think that witness to hope is to be found in the beauty and new life all around us. Owing to social isolation and restrictions on travel and commuting to work, some of us now have more time than ever to look and truly see, to see the beauty all around us, a beauty we so often take for granted. We can awaken to new life, not just in a possible future existence, but in the here and now of everyday life. This too is resurrection, but in the here and now of everyday life. We cannot know exactly what happened at Easter when the disciples believed that they saw Jesus, but we do know that their lives were utterly transformed. May we be like the trees that blossom anew every year. May we renew our lives and how we see this world. May we be transformed into a new creation, into the triumph of light and life and love. And a benediction to conclude our worship. May the world continue to be beautiful through your eyes. May love continue to astonish you. May life continue to inspire you. And may your faith sustain you forever and always. Amen.